friend. Blink.
All right. So, Oluwarotimi. Now, Olu, with your, you had Rotimi, Oluwarotimi, like tell me, your name is important. Me and names, right? I always get names wrong, but I like to try to get it right. And I noticed one of the things I noticed when we were interacting with you and FreeAgent, it was that they were calling you Rotimi, and I was all out with my Oluwarotimi.
Olu.
What do you settle with? What do you go with? And tell me a bit
Okay.
more about names.
All right. My own kind of name is a sort of story, and it's a very long story. Oluwarotimi is my full name. Even though it's my full name, it's still the short form of a very long story. A story that had to do with my when my mother was giving birth to me, and so it's sort of a testimony that Oluwarotimi it's synonymous to Emmanuel, which means God with us. So Oluwarotimi means God was with me. So it was a story of, according to my mom, she said my head was just sticking out of her for like 5 days before the rest of my body came out after 5 days. So it's something that only a woman can talk about the experience. I don't know what the experience is like. So for her to have given me that name, sort of a testimony, as I said. So going back to what I would prefer to be called, even though the full name is Oluwarotimi, you can just call me Rotimi for short, which was what I was being called at FreeAgent.
Yes. Oh, brilliant. That makes sense to me. And it comes back. I was listening to a book, on names. It was written by a Nigerian writer, and she was talking about the names, how important it is, and obviously when moving away from Nigeria, she was talking about her experiences in America. So she's in America, and she had a name that she gave to other people, and her name that was given to her was sacred. And it always makes it, because I'm always trying to push people to go for the full name and all that kind of stuff, but there's that thing that is sacred to me, and there's a name that people use. So that's why I was interested, put you on the spotlight, and there's such a
good,
powerful story to tell there as well. So we get a bit of you as a storyteller. So at the beginning of last year, we've been working with FreeAgent for a while. And we're working with you as well, Olu, and you come from a HR background. And what we've noticed with all the individuals with HR skills coming into Prespect, they were struggling to get into any HR role that gives them that boost and that start. And this opportunity with FreeAgent was really about creating that place for people to interview. So it wasn't just plonking you and placing you in there. You had to go through the interview process, of which there were 6 of you that applied, and obviously you got the spot. So Oli, tell us a little bit about that process. How did it feel to apply for this opportunity that is something that you're obviously looking for?
Okay. When for every intent there would always be a purpose, and when I was coming into the UK, I was sort of that I would not want to lose my career path, even though I was coming with a mindset that I may not get the kind of job I desired on entering into the UK. So I was prepared for just anything. And long story short, I didn't get what I wanted from the onset, even though I had to sit at home for about 3 months before I got something to do. And I came to the realization that there seemed to be a sort of an unconscious bias against people of color. And more so if you do not sort of tick all their boxes. Now, tick all their boxes in the sense that an employer desires certain specifications from a potential employee. And when more so, because of the unconscious bias, we are disadvantaged already. And when it comes to setting criteria for you to get a job, I for one did not now going to the specifics now, I for one didn't have a CIPD, and when I was applying for HR roles. So it was while I was throwing out my applications, I just, something just dawned on me that, oh, most likely it would definitely be a CIPD. And thank God for Prespect also, you linked me up with some professionals, and even though they were very good, I must say, and but talking with them and my reading of some literatures with regards to employment for Black, Asian, and minority ethnics in the UK, and I discovered that that CIPD was going to be a clog in the wheel for my career, for my HR entry into my HR career in the UK. And because the CIPD, getting the CIPD qualification was sort of a capital intensive venture. I wasn't buoyant enough to do that then. It's just occurred to me that, okay, I went back to my drawing board. What if I don't have the CIPD? Yes. How else would I be able to gain entry into the HR field in the UK? And the only thing would be to learn on the job. And, I spoke with you also, getting a firm to, I also spoke with you about, even if it's going to be free, then you mentioned, you hinted me about what was in the pipeline. And it was sort of, even if I don't have the CIPD, another avenue for me to break into that circle would be to learn on the job. And only internship would afford me the opportunity to learn on the job. Because even as an experienced recruiter back in Nigeria, I would not want to hire an experienced person to whom I've been learning on the job. So, I had to come way down via the internship, because everybody will feel that, oh, isn't internship
for graduates,
for fresh graduates or people with 0 to 1 year experience? But I damned all consequences, and because I know what I was going for. I know my global, I know my big picture. I know where I'm going, and I would do anything legal to ensure that I get that. So that was what gave rise to my applying for the internship role.
Yeah. And I suppose for you then, it's also prior to that. I know that, well, Katie volunteered for us, and she worked with a group of yous to really, I didn't really ask her too much because that was your session. So I didn't know what she had done in that session, but I know that helped the others as well in terms of, the other person's gone on to do something else still within HR and resources. But it's that network. That's the thing that's really coming back to me is what's missing for people is network. When people arrive, you have your plan, you have your goals, you have your qualifications. But when you miss out on network, then these routes are just not afforded to you.
You won't just see the routes. Apart from just the network, it's one thing for you to just have those people there. You have those people in your network. What if you don't build a relationship with them? I can just keep dropping names. Oh, I know Viana, I know Katie, I know Mary, I know Veronica. What if I've not built a relationship with those people? They would not know what I want. So it is it is your network and the kind of relationship you build with your networks that would pave the way for you. Let me just put it that way.
I mean, it's already starting so well. So tell us a little bit in terms of now that you've had that experience, and we're going to dive deeper into it. But you are, like you say, you are a professional at your A game. When you were in Nigeria, at the time you were, the last time we spoke, you were talking about how you were preparing for the pandemic. Before even in the UK, they were even thinking about that. You're already doing that work of getting people ready for working from home. So you now had both experience of working in Nigeria and UK. Is there any difference? Is there anything that you can say to any employer out there who's feeling a little bit like, oh, should I, do I? Is there, what would you say?
Yes, there's a lot of differences working in Nigeria and working in the UK. And from the human resource management point of view, of course, there's a difference in labor laws, legislation, every act and legislation that has to do with human resource management. They are quite different. And even though I was coming with um, 13 odd years experience in human resource management, which also had to do with training, end-to-end manage end-to-end human resource value chains on the human resource management. I was also how am I going to put it now? I was ready to unlearn what I was bringing into another climate now, and on entry I discovered that yes, my knowledge, my let me put that, my theoretical knowledge of human resource management may not fit into the UK system. Practically, yes, because managing human resources is the same all over the world, but it is the laws, the labor laws, the employment act, everything that has to do with management that are different according to each country. So I was already unlearning whatever I was bringing from Nigeria, and was setting myself to learn as much as possible so that I could break into that space.
And how did you find it? I mean, I read both your feedbacks, and it's really good to hear. And we're going to interview Mari as well to get more in depth as well. How did you find the process of unlearning and picking up pace in that job as well?
Yes, the recruitment process was awesome. It was a one-stage interview, and it was a process I liked in the sense that there was no dilly-dallying about, the Mari and Chris knew what they wanted. They had gotten back to me in the first almost immediately to say, okay, I would be progressing to the next stage. And it was an amazing process for me in the sense that FreeAgent did not waste time on the whole process compared to some organizations, even in Nigeria and the UK, that you put in your application and you are waiting forever for them to get back to you on the success or otherwise of the interview. So getting into FreeAgent itself, yes, I while working in Nigeria, I also happened to work in management consulting role. So from the job description of my role at FreeAgent, I could cascade it down to my experience as a management consultant. It wasn't nothing different. As a management consultant, I was literally planning, organizing, and coordinating trainings, which was exactly the same thing I was going to be doing at FreeAgent. So my experience, even though I had unlearned, as I said, I unlearned my experience coming in from Nigeria, I was still able to relearn the processes at FreeAgent, and I was able to marry my experience as a management consultant and as an intern at FreeAgent, which sort of gave me a soft landing as far as carrying out my duties as FreeAgent was concerned. The only challenge I had, which I expressed to the people team at FreeAgent, was I was excuse me, I was coming from an environment where okay, no, don't let me use environment. In the course of my career as a human resource in human resources in Nigeria, I may not have worked in organizations that invested heavily in technology. So coping at FreeAgent was tough in the first week. I opened on to Mari on my first day, and on the first day of the induction, I was in the back of my head. At the back of my hand, I was like, how was I going to cope? Because everything is in the cloud. Yes, I'm a very techie person. I'm technology inclined, but I was seeing technology on another level. So coping with the automations, everything was on Trello. You are updating your task on Trello. You are speaking with some people. Or the first time I was even though I was fond of always taking my job home back in Nigeria, but it was my first opportunity at working remotely in an office. So I struggled for the first day or 2 days, but I adapted easily to the technology.
Yeah, and as well with not only were you adapting to the technology, you were doing this in a pandemic and lockdown, and
Yeah.
obviously there's homeschooling or school duties. How did you manage that? I know obviously your partner's there, but still, this is something that interests people because some jobs are still going to be remote. I think free
Yeah.
agent is still going to be remote for a bit. You know, is there any tips, any interesting things, challenges, and tips and stuff?
Yeah, I would say working fully remote at home and managing homeschooling and all that. Luckily enough, when I started, excuse me, when I started working in the UK, I specifically looked for now because my wife was was working full time, and because she was working in customer service, she had to pick calls. So her kind of job was the one that you cannot disturb. If not, they are, the IT system will be picking distracting noise. So I was deliberate about looking for a job that I would do strictly on night shift. So I will go for a walk at night, sleep for a bit before my wife commenced work during the day, and then I can manage my son.
Yeah.
Schools were on lockdown then, so we were able to balance that. And when I did that for about 9 months until school resumed. So I was finding more time to rest. So my son was not going to school. Now, managing it when I was still managing that process when I was at a free agent, I was lucky enough that when my son was getting into nursery, he was on afternoon. He was put on the afternoon session. So afternoon didn't resume until like 1:15. And by that time I'm on break at free agent. So there wasn't the constant excuse to say, okay, I needed to do nursery runs or school drop-off, even though if I had requested for such at free agents, with the kind of team I was working with, I don't think it would have been an issue for me because we all know we're in lockdown, everybody's working from home, so we had to manage our work and life.
Yeah. Did you feel so in terms of that, did you feel that they supported you? Did you feel like how did you know that this would be possible if it came to it in free agent? Was it, how was it spoken to you? Was it you just felt it?
I just felt it, and apart from just feeling it, I worked with a team that there are some unspoken, should I say, there are some unspoken words that you would know that even if you had requested, it wouldn't be an issue, even though I did not need making that kind of request. I had a very fantastic manager in Mari, and I don't think that would be an issue because the kind of relationship you and a direct report forms with a line manager or the supervisor would inform the kind of things, the kind of requests that you can make.
Yeah.
Drawing from my experiences back in Nigeria, if you are the one that you are not working at par with, you are not meeting up with deliverables, you are always lagging behind in some things you are supposed to do, you would also think twice before you make some requests to your line manager. So it was a no-brainer. Basically it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. Because I know it's been a bit challenging for some, and that is really important. And like what you said, you had to, with your wife, really manage balance. And here you were for 9 months, you were doing night shifts and sleeping the little hours. And in between that, I'm sure you're also applying for work and for things that you wanted. I mean, tell us a bit about that, because I think sometimes people don't really connect the balance that you have to go through to get to where you want.
Yes. In that whole process, I wouldn't say that. Yes, we were able to balance tasks between the three of us. That's myself, my wife, and my son. Now, days I was off duty at my off duty from night shifts, I'm the one that sleeps late, and even though I wake up sort of early, but that was a period I also sacrificed. So apart from just having a balance, the fact that you have the mindset that you have something you want to, you have a goal, let me put it that way. You have a goal, you would also sacrifice. I didn't say that, okay, yes, I work night shifts. By the time I come back, I just sleep a bit. I take my son to school, then I come back home, then catch up on some slept hours that I should have been sleeping and continue my sleep. One thing about me is that I come back from work then at 6 a.m. or 6:30 a.m. and I sleep for 3 hours, get my son ready for school, even though 3 hours is not enough sleep for somebody that has worked like 9 hours throughout the night. But as soon as I wake up, I find it hard to sleep again. So those hours I invested in throwing out those applications. I invested a lot of time in throwing out those applications. And for some days that I wasn't at work, throughout the night, I'm online, I'm searching for vacancies. And as I'm applying, I cannot count how many vacancies I have thrown out. I cannot count how many rejections I had gotten. You know, I didn't let that weigh me down. I knew where I was going basically. And apart from just having a balance between managing home and managing work, you should always leave the place for sacrifice. You must always leave the space for sacrifice.
Yeah. I mean, and tell us, I mean, to leave that space for sacrifice requires that planning. So, you know, you, like you're saying, you've got your goal, you had an end point. And even as you're working in the night shifts, did you have like, right, this is how long I'm going to do this for until I need to, you know, how do you plan? How do you go about, if there's, you know, one of our questions here is, what advice would you give to somebody who may be in an unsatisfied position and they need to break away? Like, what tips would you give to people there?
Okay, yes. Because I was so sure of myself that I wasn't going to last on that night shift job. I was so sure that I wasn't going to spend 3 months on that job. I was so sure I was going to spend 3 months on that job. But as God will have it, I spent exactly 9 months on that job. When I was leaving that job, I looked back and I said, really, I spent 9 months on this job. Nevertheless, no matter the kind of environment we find ourselves, you must always leave the space for learning. You know, I call myself a shameless learner. It wasn't the kind of job I wanted to do, but in every experience, at every phase or every step, I take, I look for that space of learning. I look for something to take away from any road I tread. Now, on that job, I learned that everything is not about white collar, tie, suit, jacket. There are some lessons you can take away from some jobs you would do that you wouldn't think that you would ever find yourself doing. On that job, I developed my organizational skills. On that job, I'm looking for the right word now. On that job, I also developed, I was one that was always self-coaching myself. But on that job, I also coached some other colleagues who came in after me. Now, the struggle was with, as a new entrant into that field, a very strenuous job I hadn't done. I had never done in my life. And I found it hard meeting up with standards and, should I call it time now, in the sense that I spent from the onset for the first 4 or 5 months, I spent more time ensuring that my cage is well set. I'm packing my groceries on the cage, you know. In doing that, I wasn't conscious of time. Whereas that affects your what do we call it now?
Like
sort
your
of your performance index, your PI, performance index. Because the whole warehouse is computerized, there's a set performance you must meet at the end of every day. But for the first 4 or 5 months, I spent more time ensuring that my cage is well built, you know, so that there's no accident. Yes, even though making sure that my cage is well built ensures that I have less damaged goods falling off my truck. That also imbibed in me that, yes, the first process was I ensured that my cage was well arranged. The next process was for me that, yeah, even though my cage is nice and tidy and all that, I needed to ensure the beat that I meet up with time.
Yeah.
So what I did next was, yes, I know that that phase I had learned how to build my cage. The next phase for me that how do I increase the time I take in building those cages? And Vienna, I must tell you that for the first 5 months, 4 5 months, I was in performance index of I was dangling between 40-55%, which wasn't good.
Yeah, yeah.
Which wasn't a good performance. I at the point I was also at the other end of the table, in the sense that somebody was now discussing my performance with me.
Yeah.
Something that at performance discussions in Nigeria, I was, I never had any negative performance, but this was the first time in like how many years somebody was discussing performance issues with me. I now felt a sense of responsibility to ensure that I improve on those performance.
Yeah.
And Vienna, I must say that on leaving that job, I was ranging between, there was a time I got on 98.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, there was a time I got on 98, but after a while, I didn't go less than 86.
Yeah.
I didn't go less than 86. So for every experience, everybody that has purpose, that has a goal, must ensure that you may not, the road to that goal won't be smooth.
Yeah.
But for whatever road you take to achieve that goal, leave the space for learning.
Yeah.
Ensure that you learn as much as possible, because whatever you learn on that road will determine how well you will handle that goal. As I said, on that job, I improved on my organizational skills, vis-a-vis getting my cage all looking nice and tidy, and I also improved on my coaching skills.
Yeah. And that, I mean, you just telling us that there's a lot of people going to be listening and watching this who ask me about, the type of roles that you went for. I just get me a night shift, or just get me retail, just get me, and not realizing it's not like the retail that used to be back in the days. And I'm talking about when I was doing retail about 20 years ago for me, 20 something years ago for me. Right. And now it's all digitalized.
Yeah,
it's timed, it's not smooth, and listening to your story is really that, because you're looking at the visual, the beautification, getting neat and tidy and packaged, and forgetting that time, and again, a lot of us tend to write that I'm a great timekeeper, I'm a great manager of time, all these things that you put on your CV that can catch up with you. And what I love as well, as a HR individual, you're on the other side of having your performance checked, and is obviously giving you a taste of what you're going to be doing in the future as well. It's I mean, it's a book.
It's a book.
It's a book, your experience. But I love what you're saying about making time to learn. I've literally just graduated last year. I've then I've just started another course again. I'm getting my master's. I just can't help myself. Knowledge for me is powerful. If I feel like my world is shifting slightly, I go straight to go and learn something. Like, probably similar to you, brings me back to my center if my goals are all over the place. And really having that purpose, that focus of whatever you're doing, the road is not always easy, but it gets you there, and you're still smiling as well, which gives us a lot of it gives us hope. It gets people thinking about this. So in terms of your so you've done a few temporary roles. If anyone wants to ask you questions, they can come and ask you some questions for that. And then, like you said, you've literally had to reduce in terms of your ambition. You've had to basically start from scratch. Tell us a little bit about that, when that moment of you, because usually when I'm meeting people, especially when they have the masters, they have the PhDs, and they were managers or even business owners, it's very hard to then know that you have to start from scratch. Now, how did you feel, and how did you sort of overcome that feeling of I have to start again?
Wow. Nothing, because I had the I had an ultimate goal, and as I said earlier, I would do whatever it takes for me to get to that goal. Coming back to ground zero was not a big deal for me. I was ready to learn ropes from the onset because I know that, it's an established fact that the experience I was bringing from Nigeria would not matter. Apart from the practical experience, the theoretical experience I was bringing from Nigeria would not matter. I didn't have the professional qualification to break into that space, and I wasn't buoyant enough to spend money to get that qualification. So it was a no-brainer for me to accept the fact that yes, I must start from ground zero. So I didn't feel bad about it. Pardon me, I tell a lot of stories and I also do a lot of analogies. Now, there's this kind of well that you roll down for the buckets to go down the well.
Yeah.
And now, some people would always say that the way up could be sideways. But for me, that way up, I had to go down, which brings me to the analogy of that well, that where you have to turn and turn for the buckets to go down to get the water. Now, in that bucket going down, the bucket has a purpose of going deep into that well. And whoever is handling the wheel of the well will determine, it is the purpose at the back of the mind of the person turning that wheel for the bucket to get into the well. If you are fast enough about it, if you are the type that, okay, you just want to get a small quantity of water in your backup, but no matter the further down the bucket goes into the water, that will determine the quantity of water the wheeler comes back up with. That's, in that sense, I was ready to go, as I said, to ground zero. I was ready to start learning from the scratch. I'm a shameless learner. I care less, as I said, shameless. So if you are shameless, you disregard any side comments, any side talks that would, because I had friends back in Nigeria that would tell me, you were head of HR when you were leaving the UK, how can you go back and do an internship? I said, excuse me, I know what I want. So leave me, let me just go back to my internship and watch me come back up. So
yeah,
so it's immaterial for me. I didn't feel bad starting from an internship role, and that's where I am today.
Yeah. And you're just going. I mean,
I'm just
within 6 weeks, you've already got a new role. So while you were in internship, you started that. And I know that Mary was a bit worried that you were leaving your other job and you're going to fully commit to theirs. And we were having that interaction. I was just like, look, he knows what he wants. He knows what he needs. And at the moment, this internship brings him to where it's that step that he needs, right? So there's a bit of a worry, and there's and then within 6 weeks you got a role. So tell us, how did all of that sort of happen? So from all the jobs that you were throwing out there, how did you get there?
The job I got after 6 weeks the job I resumed after 6 weeks at FreeAgent, it was actually a process that started July last year, about April, May, June, 4 months after I got into the UK. And even though I was successful at all the stages of recruitment for that role, I did not get an offer then. We were notified that, we've been put on the reserve list, but I would say everything works. Okay, I'm a Christian. I believe in the Bible a lot, and I know that everything works together for good. Now, there may be a reason I wasn't offered a role in July last year after scaling all the recruitment process. I didn't know that I would get a role at FreeAgent, which would prepare me for the role I'm presently on.
Wow.
So for everything, now, I won't say it was a planned thing. I was just going with the flow.
Yeah.
Yes, even though I had a plan that, yes, I want to get into the HR space. That was my plan. But I was going with the flow of whatever comes. The first contact for this president role came just before I resumed at FreeAgent. We are hearing for the first time now. I was notified even before I resigned from the warehouse role.
Yeah.
But we were told that you are advised not to resign yet. So we are advised not to resign. And it was another 6 weeks of them doing background checks, referencing, all sorts of checks. Took 6 weeks. And before I eventually, it took about 4 weeks before I gave 2 weeks notice as FreeAgent. And it was, even though there was a plan, I was just going with the flow. And I would say that I'm grateful that I didn't start that role then, because FreeAgent gave me a learning ground, which sort of fitted well into my present role. My role at FreeAgent was, even though I was a people team intern, but I was basically helping the people team manager plan and deliver on the company's first learning month, which was the reason I was taken there in the first place. But it was also a time that I had to work fully remotely. I had to sort of wear my management consultant cap again. I had to source participants. I had to look for resource persons for some courses we had designed for the learning month. And I had to get support from my people team colleagues and my line managers. And I also had the opportunity to do 2 presentations. So that whole learning ground at FreeAgent prepared me for this role, because on this role, I'm working fully remotely, and I'll be delivering trainings remotely. So the experience at FreeAgent prepared me for this role. So I was just going with the flow, but God had the plan.
Yeah. I mean, it just sounds, and when these things happen, sometimes people think, oh, is that luck? Is that thing? But it's you've got your faith, you've got your plan, you're going with the flow, but that flow had a direction.
Yep.
So I think I wouldn't want anyone to confuse going with the flow as in just go for everything, anything, and not even know where you're aiming, because this is where people struggle. Usually I get I'll do anything. I'm prepared for anything. I can do anything. None of us can do anything. Like there's things that we're good at, and there's things that we just need to leave alone. But it's really it's got you there, and it's prepared you for this remote life.
Yes,
you're going to be delivering training. Can I come to this training? Is there anything that some of us can?
Unfortunately, we are delivering to just our colleagues.
Oh, you still need to do your training course. I'm waiting for your school to start, your training school to start. We're waiting for that.
I'll get there.
Because we need this. And then I need to see more of the wheel. My head is still got the wheel is still there. My well is still going. I'm still collecting my water. I really like that. So another thing that we're stealing from you here, your shameless learning and your wheel of purpose. That's what we'll call that. So that job, so FreeAgent's job has prepared you for this opportunity here that took such a long time to go for. That's nearly, how many months is that? That's nearly 9 months, nearly a whole year.
No,
July. So nearly
April,
10.
May, June, 9 months.
9 months. So that full 9 months of going for, you had 9 months of that job with your beautifying of the box and your, getting to 89% in your performance, getting into FreeAgent, creating the learning, which I think they are actually continuing with that.
It should. I think it should end today, really. Because it was supposed to be for a month. So the last day is actually today.
No, I mean, I would love to find out how it went, what you left it with. So in terms of working with Prespect, so we've not done any in-depth, intense stuff with you. It's really been just structuring what you had on paper, because you have a lot of experience. I mean, my gosh, I envy your CV. And that's the thing, why we really wanted to create an opportunity where employers could see and have the opportunity, if there was an internship that was paid. I know you was like, I'll do some free work. We don't do that here at Prespect. But it's knowing that there's a lot of Rotimis out there full of knowledge that need that opportunity to get into an organization. and adapt, adjust that transferable skill. Like you were saying, you had to unlearn some stuff, but
Yeah.
really what you knew still helped you in that job.
Exactly.
And I think it actually gave them a benefit as well, you know. So in terms of working with us, what have you enjoyed? What haven't you enjoyed? Any tips for us, etc.?
Yeah, working with FreeAgent was Prespect rather. Working with Prespect was what I would call an ordained course of action. Ordained in the sense that maybe if I hadn't met you and Prespect, I would still be in that warehouse. Who knows? There might have been another avenue, but I think with Prespect, even though we never met physically, we are yet to meet physically. There were these sessions we were always running on Facebook Live, which whenever I had the time or whenever I wasn't asleep from my warehouse role, I would log in once in a while. And I particularly liked two sessions. There was something you did on employability, and I'm trying to remember now something that has to do with there was this nomenclature you use, something your job description.
The decoding the job.
Decoding the job, that is it. Those were sessions I took personally and I worked on myself. At a point, I said earlier on that I couldn't count the number of applications I threw out. And it is the rate I was throwing out those applications, it is the same rate I was getting rejections. So after listening on that live session, I paused on my rate of application. I now needed to, because no, really, to be frank to myself too, I will just see most likely vacancy for an HR manager in one company. I wouldn't bother to read the details, even though as an experienced human resource person, my mindset was see that, oh, my fantastic experience I was bringing in from Nigeria would fit well into it. But after that session, I backstepped a bit and now decided to be purposeful about understanding the job description of every vacancy I see before throwing in the application. At that point, I then realized that, wait a minute, I didn't have need to be throwing out those applications randomly then. Yes, I was desperate to get break into the HR space. Yes, I needed to build my career back in the UK, but there's also the deliberate effort one must make to understand the job description before you can throw in this application. And it's not just the decoding the job description. There's the issue of there's the angle of the cover letter also. Tailoring your cover letter to be purpose fit, let me put it that way. Because coming from Nigeria, I can tell you that we have a generic cover letter we can use for an accountant role. The same cover letter will fit into a risk manager role. The same cover letter, you'll be shocked, will fit into an HR manager role. So there's also the bit I learned from Prespect about tailoring the cover letter to be purpose fit, to be role specific, and not just a generic one you should be throwing out there.
Yeah. And I think for, we do intensive workshop with stuff, but we really like to give that flexibility of what people need. And it's great that those videos made sense, because sometimes I'll be on my live just going, this is going to stick on somebody, who knows? But those are my own experience. I used to just throw my CVs, my cover letters, because I went back into my application process. And I look at some of those emails I was sending to people, and I'll just be like, yeah, V, this is why you didn't get the job. I wouldn't hire me too.
The same thing that happened to me too.
I was just like, I didn't even get the name right. I didn't even get the company. Once I even sent the letters to the wrong companies, and I put the wrong name of the companies on it. And I was just like, what's wrong with them? I'm so good at this. And no, V, not for you today. But it's really good. And it's been a pleasure, because we met you through your wife, who came to us. We actually met her physically before lockdown happened. And it's been amazing just seeing how within your household, the way that you've moved. And something that struck me, what your wife had said, was that when she first came, and within our community, she was being told that the best job to go for was in care. So I don't know if you had that interaction, you know, what were people saying to you in terms of how to adjust and how to find work? You know, what was your experience?
It was the same experience she had, I also had.
Yeah.
And that was what gave rise to me staying at home for 3 months before I could start to do anything, because I'm not despising those that are in the care. You know, it's an individual thing. It's It's an individual thing. I'm very caring, but not. I won't say because I'm very caring, I'm very empathetic, I would go and do a care job. No. And that was what gave rise to the fact that I had to sit at home for 3 months, because if I wanted to start a care job the day after I go into the UK, I would have started work then.
Yeah.
So I was patient. I was just patient about looking for alternative to my desire. And yeah, I said,
and they build it from
the
there.
the warehouse one. Yes, I can do the warehouse work. And so that's how I had to wait for three March, April, May. Yeah, 3 months before I got the warehouse work. Yeah. So my experience wasn't different from hers.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Yeah. And it's really that. And I think, as you're saying, you know, I worked in care myself when I first moved to Scotland. We all seemed to land there. But I always noticed that it's not always something that we automatically want to do, is only because somebody has told us to do it. And it should be something that you really want to do, that you're passionate for. You know, I left that knowing that I love people. I worked in a nursing home. I love old people, but I just couldn't work in a house, mainly because I just end up crying all the time because I want to take everybody home and feed them and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But it was really that. It was being aware of what's been said to people, and then being aware of the resources and support that we can give to people as well.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting to hear that. I mean, I'm just yapping on in here. So in terms of, so you've worked with us, you've worked with FreeAgent. Were there other organizations that you have worked with before meeting us? Prespect. You just worked with Prespect?
Just Prespect.
Oh, okay. We'll leave the other organizations alone then. And I thought there's other organizations. And you are Mr. LinkedIn, right? Are you still on LinkedIn? I have been avoiding LinkedIn. So tell us a bit about LinkedIn, right? Now that you're building up in terms of your connection, you said that at the beginning about building relationships and connecting with people. Tell us a bit more in terms of how are you now using that in LinkedIn? Are you continuing with that, or, you know, how are you getting on?
LinkedIn is not something that you can abandon just because you are having this, oh, you are there already. No. I, for one, I'm starting down I'm coming from the ground again. So LinkedIn is not a place I would be far away from. There are lots of connections you can get on LinkedIn. There are there are some fantastic testimonies that has been shared on LinkedIn, opportunities that have been gotten from LinkedIn. I won't say because I haven't gotten a job on LinkedIn, then I would just leave LinkedIn. No. LinkedIn is a place you can make valuable, and I mean valuable connections. So apart from the fact that you will make connections that could link you up with a job, apart from the connection bits, LinkedIn offers lots of learning resources, which is literally where I sit on whenever I'm less busy. I'm hardly less busy these days because we are always prepping for trainings. But whenever I'm less busy, LinkedIn Learning is a place you find me, because I'm constantly reading up. Apart from LinkedIn Learning, even some posts from some individuals, there are some people you could follow on LinkedIn okay, let me say this. You won't say because you are either in HR, you are in learning and development, you are in some specific sector, and just restrict yourself there. I do a lot of reading, diverse reading, let me put it that way. So I don't read up only anything in human resource management. I read anything and everything, as long as it's not too lengthy. I'm not a novel person. I read books as long as, you know, just a few pages. I'm not a novel, big book person. So if they are not too lengthy, I can read anything on LinkedIn. That's just moving away from the connection job seeking part of, because everybody that comes to LinkedIn these days, maybe they've been told, yes, you get the job on LinkedIn, but don't come on LinkedIn just for the purpose of getting a job. No, don't come on it just for the purpose of getting a job. Try to harness the more than enough resources available on LinkedIn, and not just to get a job. Read about anything. There are various influencers on LinkedIn. They read about finance, what's happening in as far as finance is concerned on the Wall Street, or read about stuff coming out from Silicon Valley. Read about stuff coming up from China. How do you compare China as an emerging economy and US that's already a world economy, or UK? You know, there are resources you can get on LinkedIn that you can use to do your own comparison and form your own informed decision, and not just swallowing everything hook, line, and sinker that may be postulated by somebody. So LinkedIn is not a place I'll be far away from in the near future. I would always be on LinkedIn. Whenever I have the time, when I was back in Nigeria, I used to post. I belong to this group of HR professionals. We're on WhatsApp. So there's this thing I do every Monday morning at 5 a.m. in Nigeria. I still continue. I'm still doing it up to now. So when I post it on the WhatsApp group, when I remember, I also post it on LinkedIn. It's not something I've done in a while though, but LinkedIn is not a place I'll be far away from, definitely.
And in terms of learning, what are the top courses that you would recommend on LinkedIn at the moment? I've just joined the learning. I'm looking at the unconscious bias one. But
there are enough. There are more than enough now. Inclusion and diversity and equality is something that is trending nowadays. So there are more than enough resources, learning resources that are being churned out on LinkedIn. Diversity and inclusion. There are also resources, some job-specific resources that are also depending on, depending on what you are doing at the moment. I'm always looking at stuff that has to do with employment law in the UK. What are the contemporary things that are coming up in you as far as managing people is concerned? Even though I'm now sort of specializing in an arm of human resource management, which is learning and development, I'm now rechanneling my focus on what are the contemporary issues as far as learning and development is concerned. Are there any new theories or new theories coming up as far as learning delivery is concerned? I read anything that has to do with what I do presently, what I used to do as a human resource person, and anything and everything at all.
So you're still a shameless learner, even in your busy.
I'm still a shameless
learner. I love it. So in terms of, for anyone else, if you were to give some big tips, right? Because there's a lot of HR people that are coming up. What tips would you give to people from your experience with FreeAgent and now with your new job? What would you say that people should be doing, could be looking at to get to where they want to be?
Okay, I'll just summarize what I've been saying. Leave the place for learning. Leave the space for learning. On that road, ensure you have enough space for learning. On that road, ensure you are ready to sacrifice. On the road to getting to where you are going, leave the space for valuable relationships and network. Now, I left the first one, leaving the place for learning. No knowledge is lost. No knowledge is a waste. Whatever you come across today and you feel you don't have need for it, trust me, you would, even though if it's not something that has to do with the job you are looking at doing, you find that the opportunity you missed to learn that thing, say 5 years ago, would come today, and you wouldn't want to get into a situation where you are biting your finger to say, oh, you wish you had learned that thing then. That's about leaving the space for learning. Get ready to sacrifice. Not all things will come to you on a platter of gold. In the course of my career, I can remember that I had taken pay cuts about 3 times, just because I know what I wanted. And the warehouse role I was doing when I came into the UK was paying well. Maybe not, but it was something handsome. Something, yeah, it was paying handsomely. And because I desire to be somewhere, I had a goal in mind. Moving to FreeAgent was a pay cut for me. It was immaterial to me. Talking about sacrifice now, the pay cut was immaterial to me because I saw that apart from just the monetary value I would be getting, the less monetary value I would be getting out of the FreeAgent relationship, there's the fact that I have a foot on the career path already, other than looking at, oh, I'm being paid well at in the warehouse, and no, you cannot leave it because the money is good, or blah 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 blah. And that is one thing, Vienna, I must say, that has blinded some people, that have blinded some ambitious people, and they have lost track of their original goal, of where they are going. So that's about sacrifice. Be ready to make those sacrifices. Be ready to have sleepless nights. There's this saying, it's anonymous now, that the road which the heights which great men reach, the heights which great men climb and reach, is not attained by a sudden flight. Men toiled in the night while their companions sleep. This is not a time. We are not in a world. We are not in a time for anybody to be investing in sleep. No. Sacrifice those sleep so that when you get there, there'll be enough time for everybody to sleep in the future. You will be looking. You will sleep. You will be tired of sleeping. But for the moment, for anybody that is ambitious enough, for anybody that has a career plan and a career goal, be ready for learning, be ready to make sacrifices. And the last one, invest in not just networking, building relationships with those networks.
Amen. That's all I can say to that one. that was powerful. I'm just like, yes. I'm just going to leave it there. Olu, is there anything else you want to add? I mean, that was such a roundup. That was...
Yeah. Okay. I will start by appreciating you and Prespect for the kind of relationship we had, even though it had always been a virtual relationship. And Vienna, I will look for you now that lockdown has been lifted. I will look for you. I'm coming to visit you.
Come
off camera. So I think I would really want to appreciate the kind of relationship we formed over the course of the lockdown. Valuable one at that. I'm not patronizing you now, I must say. This is not patronage. I'm just stating facts. Even though I didn't have all the time in the world to attend all the Facebook live sessions you had, but the few I was able to key into, I took away learnings from them. And it still takes me back to the fact that for anybody that has a career goal, leave the space for learning. I don't know why I keep talking about learning, maybe because I'm a shameless learner. Leave the space for learning. And the road would definitely not always be smooth. It's a very rough road. There's always no pain. No, there's always no gain without pain. I can't remember how it's said now, but no pain, no gain. Yeah, that's it. Anything that comes to you on a platter of gold may not last. It is that which you work for. You would have the heart to hold on to tightly. So,
yeah. Thank you so much, Olu.
Thanks, V.
I can't wait for you to come to our hub as well. Edinburgh, we're open. We're ready to go. So that's starting when? We're going to be opening up in July and have our sessions there and stuff. You know, you might come and give us one of your masterclass for your learning and development and teach us a bit more about the whale. But no, it's been an absolute pleasure. It has been, and it's just been amazing to see. And it's humbling for us as well to just see your journeys and to see where you are. And I know you and Adenike are going to fly high and continue. What you had back home is going to be even bigger here as well, you know, and your little man, he's gonna be looking at you both going, this is how you do it, you know. But it's been fantastic, and I know that Mary will definitely have lots of fantastic things to say. They were sorry to lose you so early, but you know, that's the path we take to get to where we need to go to. You know?
we never can tell. We will cross path again. I could decide to apply to FreeAgent again tomorrow.
You never know.
Nothing is impossible.